Welcome back to a special episode of Barn and Soul, where farming meets heart, history, and the mission to preserve rare heritage breeds for future generations. Today we shine a spotlight on one of the rarest and most fascinating goat breeds in the world, the Arapawa Island Goat. These goats are more than just adorable. They're survivors, living pieces of maritime history, and their presence here represents our deep commitment to preserving rare and endangered farm breeds. The story of the Arapawa Island Goat begins in the late 18th century. Arapawa Island lies in the Marlborough Sounds at the northern tip of the New Zealand's South Island. According to the Arapawa Goat Breeders Association and other historical sources, the prevailing theory is that these goats are descendants of Old English goats, milk goats, brought to the island by British explorer Captain James Cook during one of his many voyages to New Zealand. Cook anchored in nearby Queen Charlotte Sound multiple times between 1770 and 1777. During these visits, he often left animals behind to serve as future food sources for shipwrecked sailors or future settlers. While the exact documentation about the goats isn't necessarily definitive, oral histories and genetic evidence strongly suggest that the goats on Arapawa Island descended from Old English breeds that Cook and his crew released. The genetic isolation of the island allowed these goats to develop into a distinct population over the centuries. Today, they are considered a landrace breed, meaning they developed naturally over generations rather than being selectively bred by humans. These animals adapted remarkably well to the island's steep terrain and harsh conditions, living feral for nearly 200 years. In the 1970s, efforts began to recognize their uniqueness and protect them from government eradication programs aimed at restoring native flora. There is some very serious irony happening there. Arapawa goats are critically rare. As of the latest estimates, there are fewer than 300 purebred individuals known to exist in New Zealand. Small populations do exist in the US, New Zealand, and the UK, but I have it on good authority that the US now has more purebred Arapawa goats than New Zealand does, which is extremely concerning. They are listed as critical by the Livestock Conservancy here in the U.S. Their rarity is due to habitat loss, competition from what you would call commercial goat breeds, and mainly government culling in New Zealand, where they were, where they are still considered wrongly to be pests. Conservation efforts over the last few decades have helped preserve this breed, but they remain critically endangered. Here at Dalby Farm in Scituate, Massachusetts, we are honored to provide a permanent home for several Arapawa Island goats, and we have been doing this for over 25 years. Each one has a name, a personality, and a purpose. These goats are part of our educational mission. They're ambassadors for conservation who help us tell the larger story of rare breed preservation. Arapawas are medium-sized with long, coarse hair and backward-sweeping horns. They're intelligent, hardy, deeply inquisitive, traits likely honed by generations of surviving in the wild. They tend to be agile and sure-footed, often climbing rocks and structures with total ease. Arapawa personality traits include being Gentle and curious, hardy and independent, they're excellent foragers with strong hooves suited for rocky terrain. Distinctive features are their shaggy coats, which are often featuring black and white or brown coloring, and as I mentioned, those long sweeping horns. They are highly intelligent and extremely social, and they definitely bond closely with caretakers. Caring for the Arapawa requires patience, respect, and an understanding of their heritage. Their diet consists mostly of hay and supplemental grains. They evolved in a rugged environment, so they're less prone to some common ailments found in highly domesticated goats, but they still do need that regular hoof trim, vet care, and plenty of enrichment to thrive. Socially, Arapawas form strong bonds, both with each other and trusted caregivers. Many of ours enjoy being brushed or having quiet conversations, really, during chores. All goats need shelter, right? So I'm gonna go through some of the key points of goat ownership, and this is really sort of a blanket overview of goat care in general, and then in a minute I'm going to go over unique Arapawa considerations. Just keep that in mind. So we're talking about Arapawa goat care, but all goats need shelter. They need protection from wind, rain, and extreme sun. A 3-sided shelter with clean bedding is okay, if not an actual building they can go into and be locked in at night. Fencing. Secure fencing is essential. Goats are escape artists. They don't see it that way, but we do. 4 to 5 feet tall fencing is pretty much ideal. Some say use electric reinforcement. We have never needed that and never will utilize it. You don't need that, but some will tell you, electric reinforcement, but that's not what we'll tell you. Nutrition. Goats require access to clean hay, fresh water, and loose minerals. Blocks can promote overconsumption or dental wear, so they do suggest loose minerals formulated for caprines. Goats are herd animals, so you need to keep at least 2 goats together at all times. It's very important for their well-being. Having 1 goat is just not a thing. You should not do that. Every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on terrain, you personally, as the caregiver, would have to keep an eye out on this, but they need their hooves trimmed. You can either learn how to do it yourself or find a professional in your area who can come do this for you, but it prevents hoof rot and lameness, and it's not optional, so we need to keep an eye on those hooves. Vaccinations and deworming. You will have to have a vet that will come and you can schedule regular checkups with this goat savvy vet. CDT vaccine is essential, believe me. And arguably, most importantly, day to day, their enrichment is very important and should not be underestimated. Goats love to climb and explore, so have some rocks, platforms, something around that they can browse, whatever it may be. Maybe alternate things in there to help prevent boredom. Because yes, they can get bored and then they get destructive and then you're mad. So let's be preventative, proactive versus reactive, as I like to say. Okay, unique Arapawa considerations, dietary adaptation. So because they adapted over centuries to forage in rugged landscapes, the Arapawas are especially skilled at browsing and foraging, so they will eat leaves and bark and shrubs. They do well with access to a varied natural forage, though supplemental hay is non-negotiable, absolutely necessary. Energy-wise, Arapawas often have slower metabolisms than commercial breeds, so overfeeding them really can lead to health issues such as obesity. So please monitor their body condition regularly and, keep them active, but also make sure you're not overfeeding them. Compared to, say, dairy breeds, Arapawas are easily way more reserved. They're way more feral. They do bond deeply, but that requires extreme patience and gentle handling, especially if they were raised in more feral conditions. Here at Dalby, if you walk into the barn, they're all going to pop up like dogs on their hind legs and just stare at you and wait for hay or a treat. So that does not necessarily describe our Arapawas, but they know they're spoiled rotten. So it's a whole vibe in our barn. Now, because of their rarity, any breeding needs to be done with extreme care to preserve the genetics. You need to have registered goats that are, vetted by breed conservation groups or, wherever you are, this can vary, but you need to make sure you have the paperwork to prove that the two consenting goats are actually legitimate Arapawas, or else you're not really helping the breed. So there is a bit of logistical paperwork needed in terms of knowing what's happening here when you're trying to breed them. But it can be done, it is done, and we do it. So yeah. At Dalby here, we do prioritize preservation, not production. So our Arapawa goats live here for 18 plus years, as long as they live, to serve as educational ambassadors to help people learn about the fact that farm breeds are going extinct every month. So at Dalby, they learn about rare breeds, biodiversity, and even sustainable farming practices. In the grand scheme of livestock conservation, Arapawa goats are a genetic treasure. DNA testing confirms that they are genetically distinct from modern commercial breeds. Their preservation helps maintain biodiversity, and it safeguards traits like disease resistance and foraging efficiency that really may prove valuable in a changing world. Their near eradication in the 1970s, when they were considered, quote, invasive, led to a grassroots conservation effort that included the efforts of Betty and Walt Rowe, who took in goats and worked to save the breed. Thanks to those very early efforts and ongoing support from breed associations and sanctuaries around the world, Arapawa goats are still with us, but their numbers are still concerningly low. Every Arapawa goat alive today carries history in its genes, a legacy that stretches back to the age of exploration. By caring for and educating others about these goats, we're helping to protect a living piece of agricultural and maritime history. These animals are reminders of the importance of preserving what's rare, resilient, and often overlooked. So I thank you for joining us today to meet this extraordinary Arapawa Island goat. If you want to support rare breeds like this one, consider visiting our online country store. Over 50% of all proceeds go directly toward the care and upkeep of our animals, of these educational ambassadors. Every purchase helps preserve a piece of living history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who loves animals and conservation as much as you clearly do. And until next time, take care, and don't forget to appreciate the rare and wonderful things in life.